Hi everyone, my name is Kelsey for those who do not know me. I'm in the Coast Guard with my husband, Zach. We've been married for, it'll be 2 years in May, and we live in Newport, Rhode Island right now. This past Sunday, my pastor at our church, New Life in Smithfield, Rhode Island, encouraged us to write down our stories. He kept saying how important it is to share our story and share how God has worked in our lives. So today I want to share my story. And I wanted to start with a verse, Revelations 12:11, which says, "They conquered him by the blood of the Lamb and by the word of their testimony, for they did not love their lives in the face of death." So here's my story. My story is one of healing and trials in God's faithfulness. So it was my sophomore year at the Coast Guard Academy in New London, Connecticut, and I had just recovered. I was playing volleyball there, but I had just recovered from an ACL surgery, and I was leading a Bible study. I was a part of Officers Christian Fellowship at the school, at the academy, and I was dating my now husband, Zach, and it was the spring of 2012. I started feeling these weird things were happening to me. I was getting confused. I was forgetting what my classes were. I was on this roller coaster of emotions. I would be angry or upset 1 second, and the next I would be happy and joyful. I was getting fevers at night. And all of these things just kept escalating. I wasn't depressed. I wasn't stressed. It was something physically was wrong with my body. So I had some tests done. Eventually I couldn't take it anymore, and my mom came up and I went to the ER. I was admitted to the emergency room and then to a hospital, Yale Hospital. I was there for 3 weeks. They did a huge amount of tests. And finally, after 2 weeks, they figured out what I had. I was diagnosed with NMDA receptor encephalitis, which is the brain was attacking itself. My brain was attacking itself. It was affecting me cognitively, language, motor skills. I soon couldn't communicate with anybody. I couldn't speak. I was in a catatonic state, which is I was awake. It looked like I was alert, but nothing was getting to my brain. I was basically, I could hear things going on and stuff was happening in my brain, but I couldn't express myself. I couldn't talk. I couldn't walk. I couldn't use the bathroom by myself. I was also having seizures at this time too. Before I got into the catatonic state, one of the nurses I was asked a bunch of questions from the nurses and the doctors, and one of them was who was the president of the United States at the time. Obviously, it was President Obama at the time, and I said it was Jesus. So my brain was just not clicking, not firing, and if I had remained in that catatonic state, I was well on my way to being a vegetable. My mom, like I said, was in the hospital with me every single day. My dad came up to visit, and I didn't recognize him at all. Zach was there helping, and his family. I had people from the academy praying over me, singing hymns over me, starting Facebook groups to pray for me. And when my mom was in the hospital with me, she had these 40 healing verses that she prayed over me 3 times a day, every day. When Zach was there, he would read them for me. But they were healing verses. They were verses about Jesus' ministry and all the miracles he did. They were about God's promises for his people and those that are faithful to him. And it goes on and on. But she would be diligent in reading those verses for me 3 times a day. There was one day my mom cried out to God and said, Lord, if she's going to be okay, I need to sign right now. And just shortly after that, it was in the middle of the night, I wasn't talking. I hadn't talked for days. I hadn't responded to things for days. I woke up. My mom was sleeping. I woke her up, just talking to her, and I said, Mom, can you please take off these socks on my feet and these mittens on my hands? I had these mittens because I would tear at my all of the wires in me, and on my head I would tear at them constantly, so I had to wear these huge mittens to keep me from doing that. So that was my mom's turning point where she knew I was going to be okay. I was going to get out of this. I was flown to a hospital in Dallas, Texas, and I was there for 2 more weeks. They continued to do treatment on me until I was responding. I got to see, my brothers got to see me. Of course, my mom and dad were there, and my aunt and uncle and cousins were there. They would pray over me, sing praises over me. There was one time that I was getting all these EKGs for testing for my brain, and I don't remember this. This is all from what they tell me. But Krista and Kate, my cousins, spent hours brushing out my hair and singing, playing guitar and singing songs to me to calm me down as they combed out my hair from all the matting. And if they hadn't done that, I would have had to shave my head too. But eventually I started getting better. I was responding to things. My language took a long time to get back. I actually went to PATE rehab. It's a brain rehab center. I was there for a month. I should have been there for 3 months, and I actually should have been in the hospital for a lot longer than the 6 weeks that I was. But I was at this rehab center for 1 month, and I was doing a lot of word recognition where the nurse there would show me a sign of a picture of a broom or a pillow or anything like that. And it took me such the longest time to recognize what those things were. I knew what it was. I had seen it before or used it before, but I had no idea what the word was. So building up my vocabulary was really hard. I was a math major at the academy, doing really high level math, and I had to relearn my my multiplication tables and my addition tables and all that. I had to start from a kindergarten, first grade knowledge. I had to learn how to walk again. I had to strengthen my knee from my first knee surgery. The hardest thing was understanding why this happened to me, and finding the strength to overcome it. I relied heavily on these 2 verses, Jeremiah 29:11. For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future. And it took me forever to wrap my mind around, why is this part of my story? Why would God allow me to go through this? When he says that he has a hope and a future for us in Jeremiah 29:11, what could cause this to happen in my life? And also another verse that I stood on was 2 Timothy 1:7. For God did not give us a spirit of fear, but a spirit of power, of love, and of sound mind. The one thing I learned a lot from the rehab center was there was people around me that were unable to ever walk again because of a brain injury from a motorcycle accident or semi-truck accident. There were people that had to talk through their throat because they could no longer use their vocal cords. People in wheelchairs for the rest of their life. And I was walking around like I didn't have anything physically looking at me. I wasn't sick. I lost a lot of weight, but I was walking fine. I was mobile. I was starting to run again, or jog. And So for me, it was humbling. Like, I could be in such a worse state than these people in here, and they were so joyful. They were the ones encouraging me and loving me and telling me that I can make it through, and I can overcome this. So I left brain rehab. I did all the exercises I was supposed to, mentally and physically, at home. And I pleaded with the Coast Guard Academy to let me come back. I came back. I had to do a physical fitness test, and I scored the highest that I've ever done prior to me being sick. I had to teach a physics class to myself so I could keep up with my classmates. And I taught the class to myself, and I took the final exam and got 100 on it. I was back at the academy. All of my teachers and staff expected me to take at most 10, 12 credits. I kept up with my 20 credits that I had to for the year to keep up with my classmates and to prove that I was supposed to be there. I had earned this, and the only way I earned it was with God's grace. He was the one that gave me the strength to keep going and never give up. He's the one that filled me with a newfound faith that I had never had before. He's the one that turned my parents and my family's life around. They are such strong believers now because of God's work in our lives. And though I went through those trials and there was more to come, I had 2 more knee surgeries after that. But though I went through all those trials, I knew that God used me. That was not God's will for me to go through so much pain. It was the devil trying to bring me down. But it was God's will for me to overcome and be victorious, just like it says in Revelations 12:11. We have overcome by the blood of the Lamb, God's death and resurrection on the cross, and the word of our testimony, his story, how he has affected us and changed us from the inside out. And today I drive a 225-foot boat as my job. I'm married to Zach for 2 years. We got married right after I graduated from the academy. Zach became a Christian after I was sick because of the miracle that happened. He witnessed it firsthand, and there's no turning back for him either. My family has grown in their faith extensively, and we all know that we're going to be to heaven together, regardless of what this world does to us. We will be in heaven together, and it's such a joyful thing to know. I wanted to share my story with you because Easter is just about 4 weeks away, and I wanted to let you know that you too can have a relationship with Jesus Christ. He can give you the forgiveness you need, the healing you need, the restoration, the love, the freedom, and the victory that you need, because he died on the cross for you, for your sins, for your healing, because he loves you. And he rose again on the 3rd day. It's the greatest miracle that's ever happened, and he's waiting for a relationship with you. Below is information about our church, New Life, that's having Easter at the Dunkin' Donuts Center in Providence, Rhode Island. They're also going to be broadcasting the service across the nation, across the globe. So that information is below. And please reach out to me if you have any more questions about my story, and I would love to hear your story too. Thank you.